Hello, welcome to the theElpyDimension. I am your guide, Elpy, ushering you into the Elpy worm farms. This is the mixed worm bin number 2. One of 2 of my really strong populations. Today is September 10th, 2024. It has been 11 days. Yes, folks, 11 days. It's the longest I've gone in a while since I have checked in here. What I am removing are my quote-unquote worm blankets. I did not come up with that name, FYI. All right, 11 days since feeding. Was this the bin I asked about what we thought how much last time? The time before last, I said, oh, I think there's going to be 75% of the feeding left. And it was a little bit under that. Can't remember. I really need to watch my old videos before so that I know exactly what I'm talking about. But right off the bat, looks good, doesn't it? There was a worm right on top. They're moist. The castings are moist. We see castings. We see worms right on top. Oh yeah. This tells me that this is still a happy and healthy bin. Gosh, I really need to at least take notes if I don't watch the video over again. I mean, I watch it before I publish it, but please take notes so you can be like, hey. Anyways, let's just dive in. I see some onion remnants over here. Oh, I think I fed here. Yes, I did. Because here was where I fed the time before that. Let's peek in and see what we got going on. All right. I know we had a pepper. This is just skins left. That was part of a tea bag. Worms. This is an old avocado pit, half of a pit. And last couple of times with this bin especially, I was just hand tearing paper. So it's not a bad idea. You see it really clumps together and I don't think they mind it, but at the same time, they don't get to get in between all the layers of the paper. Oh, look. A wisp. A very young baby worm. Let's see what that might. I see there's some kind of juice on the paper. So I don't know what the mite is doing. He's going away from the worm. Okay. Well, that's cool. The baby worms have no problem getting in between there. All right. Let me try to make this a little bit faster. I think we've had some moisture issues in here. That's why I put a bunch of paper down there to make up for the moisture, but also I do want to encourage breeding. Yeah, because this is all very, like, there's nobody in there. So, I mean, we still have lots of worms throughout. They're active. Not a ton, but again, this was the old feeding zone. But we have, you know, I would think, when do you think, let's make another prediction. When do you think I'll be harvesting from this bin? Remember, blue worm, I don't perfect my castings. And I'm not saying that at any dig at anyone who does. I think that's super cool. I'm just a little bit more impatient and even lazy. I use the castings myself, so I'm the only one expecting anything. When do you think? I say no more than a month. I'm going to say 3 weeks from now, I'll be talking about harvesting half of this bin. So this bin will be fully harvested. If it is the 10th, 21 days from now will be the 1st of October, I think. Yeah. So by the 1st of October, I'll be talking about, at the latest, talking about harvesting from this bin. So that makes me say, should we take all this new stuff we added last time and use this for today's feeding and let this bin work its way? That might be the way to go, actually. I've got a whole bunch of shredded paper that's ready to go. So I'm not at a... I don't need to conserve paper products. It is kind of mucky down there. Good looking worms. All right. Let's try to make... Yeah, oh yeah, I mean, look at... Yeah, they're wet, but look at how much of it is castings versus paper. I think this bin is definitely... There's a adult worm with a clitellum. I think this bin we're looking at harvesting sooner than later, for sure. So maybe I was going to add this to the feeding zone, but maybe I'll even just... I should save this instead of adding more paper, because this stuff is wet, so it's not like I'm using it to absorb moisture. All right. So this is stuff we're going to use in the new feeding zone. Let's move over to the previous feeding zone. On top, okay. I'm pretty sure it's in this front corner. So let's dig into, this is a avocado pit, half of one. You see I immediately dug up. Oh yeah, I think, was this the bin that I had? No, it wasn't. I was going to say found a breeding pair in this corner. Not that I think they're still breeding in this corner, but it just, a memory occurred to me. Again, wet, murky, muddy, I mean. But worms, yay. Let's get the whole bin stirred up, especially discovering kind of muddy conditions. Not a bad idea to have more adults. So if last time I was talking about, oh, I still want it to be wet. Now looking at, I think this bin is on its way to harvest within a month. Month and a half, the whole bin should be harvested. We should be starting with all new material, is my prediction. Then I should actually not be gearing so much towards breeding. I still want my worms to breed and multiply, but I also want to have some nice castings. I'm not going to have... My outdoor compost is not going to be sufficient enough to use fall compost in the way that I like to. So worm castings are going to be important. What is it about these apples in particular that my worms don't seem to favor? I'll get you wondering. So yeah, I'm not going to worry too much about adding a lot more wet material to this. I think we'll add a little bit of carbon at a time to the feedings, but focus on moving this towards... Okay, yeah, so this was... Yeah, as soon as I reach my hand in there, I feel paper. And so there's a lot of... and it stinks. There's a lot of newer material that needs to be broken down. And that's what, I'm not going to add new paper this feeding. I agree. I don't know that I believe that you can have too much paper, too much carbon in your bin, but if I feel like maybe I should be kind of slowing down on adding lots of material, because when a bin is really new, I do kind of like to just go ahead and be like, just keep going. I know that I'm really impressed with the numbers I see with people who use the shallow bus bins. Obviously, that's great. I'm a little bit jealous of their worm parties, but I also like having my deep bins. It is what it is. But I think that I need to stop focusing on add new stuff. So let's get into the feeding zone. All right. We see worms, of course. We see no worm parties, but nice little gatherings. We also see mites. Yeah, this is just further reiterating. So nice. That I will not be adding more paper with this feeding. And in fact, no, I already put a bunch of stuff over there. I was going to say maybe I should. I've been feeding all on this side, it feels like. All right. It's warm, by the way. I think, did I have gazpacho for these guys? Definitely. Oh yeah, hey. Okay. It's not hot, but there is some warmth down there. Yep, I did have some of the frozen, and we have some left. Frozen thawed vegetables, mixed veggies. So little tiny pieces. Oh yeah, look at that action. Very, very active. Of course, the fastest moving are the blue worms. That's great to see. So, there's not a lot of food left by any means, but there's some. Oh. Guess there will. Oh. I'm being a little bit overzealous, hasty, and trying to just get this moving. It was a little bit of a worm party. Okay. Yeah, you see how much of it, just tearing it up by hand and just piling it in there. Didn't give them a chance to get as into it as they do when it's shredded. I mean, they're in it. And they're down in here because here's where all the good food juices are. But there's no standing water. They aren't overly moist. Tons of worms, though. Well, now that I stirred them up, Great. Okay. We're going to call this a day. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do need to consciously say that this bin, we're going to move towards, I predict it'll be ready, completely harvested in 4 to 6 weeks. And, what I say, in 3 weeks, though, we'll be harvesting the first side. I'm going to stick to that. we are going to put the old feeding right back in place with some of the paper. Just some of the paper though, because we're going to use the majority of the paper for the new feeding. So actually, to give myself more room, I'm actually going to make this not just the top left corner, but the top left and center. And then we'll more so pile, get more of the castings out. Hey guys, sorry about this. Because really I want more of the paper to be worked on and the castings start to sort of dry up, and not dry up, but you know. All right, let's get some food. We are going to add an old avocado, pear, cucumber, pickles, beans, frozen but thawing squash, and a big heap of frozen but thawing tomato. Why, Elpy, did you take this huge chunk of tomatoes? Because the next bin we're going to, mixed worm bin number 1, had a huge feeding last time. And I expect there to be some leftover food, and I don't want to feed them as large this time around. Well, it's still going to be large, but it's not going to be ginormous. So that's why. I'm like, well, I'm using this food. If I really felt like, oh no, I don't want to use this food, then I'll take it out to the outdoor compost, but I want to use this. So, all right. Do we have more paper? Because this is how the fruit flies come, because it's not really buried. But again, I need to get mosquito dunks anyways. Oh yeah, duh. Here we go. Because I do think that the balance of the carbon, the papers, the browns with the nitrogen, I believe it helps things out. That's just me. I mean, I've heard that as well in people who know better, but I can't. I'm not like, that absolutely. Anyways, the balance helps, but I'm not the person to really break it down. Let's put this apple back down in there. Okay, so this is check-in and feeding of mixed worm bin number 2. It has been 11 days. They had a little bit of food left. The apple is a long-term feeding item, and it's really strange that they aren't more interested in it. I'm more pointing to the apple and the origin of the apple. I'm more being suspicious about that fact than, oh, why didn't they eat it? I'm like, If you know, you know. If you don't, let's talk. Let's discuss. Okay. It had been 11 days since I last fed this bin. I think they look great. Today is the 10th of September, 2024. I think in 3 weeks, I think by October 1st, I'll be harvesting 1/2 of this bin. All right. Now I'm going to move on to mixed worm bin number 1. So at the time of recording this, I have posted the 4th bin from the last feeding, which was mixed worm bin number 1. And yeah, you should, by the time you see this video, you should be able to see this week's feeding of the red wiggler bin. And remember, the red wiggler bin and the European night red wiggler bin, now mixed worm bin number 3, was a population that I was really concerned about. We'll put this blanket over on the feeding side. So check out that video and see how concerned I am or am not. And you might, at the time you see this, you might also be able to see the European nightcrawler bin, which is now mixed worm bin number 4. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you and your interest. Love to talk to you in the comments. Be safe, be well. Bye for now.